Welcome to this guided series for new players for Workers and Resources Soviet Republic, and we'll pick up on the 15th of October 1961. So our first winter is on the way. Now in the last part we were building up our construction industry, and we've now reached a point in the game because we've got our first town up and running. We've got kind of all our main infrastructure in place. This is where trying to make a guided series gets a little bit tricky, because the decisions we're going to be making going forward now will depend, and this will apply to your own games, will depend on your starting location, what your objectives with the series are, and where the opportunities are. Now in the next part I want to start talking about exploiting those opportunities, and I'll be talking about how to make money in the game. What I want to do in this video is tidy up a few bits and pieces which are kind of need to be resolved, so that I don't have to talk about those in the next video. And so in this video we're going to do a number of things. The first thing we're going to do is switch the game back to the day-night cycle, so you guys can get an idea of how cool the city will look once we get at darkness. And of course what that will do is bring back in the weather. The second thing I want to talk about is research, because research is now a point where, again, it comes back to what I was just saying, is that the research you want to do will depend on very much on what your objectives are, where the opportunities are. And of course winter's coming as well, and your first winter can always be interesting, because if they've left any weaknesses in your town, winter will always expose it, and that remains true throughout the game, especially when you play on realistic mode. At the end, what I'm going to do is talk a little bit about building complex road junctions. And I want to talk a little bit about what I've been doing up here and the reasons why I've done it. But I'll come back to that later on, because it's all, I don't want to get, I want to try and stay on subject, because, and I apologise in advance for this, that we're now at a point where it's going to be very easy for me to go off on a tangent because of the nature of what we're going to be looking at. So the first thing I want to do is come up here and show you game settings. And what we're going to do is swap the day-night cycle, or night-day cycle as they call it, back to a moving sun. The reason for that, what that means is that turns on the day-night cycle. Now, what you see is some changes require a reload to your game. And we're just going to click that and the game will reload. So here we are, we're back in again. And you can see nothing's changed, because if I come up to here now, we've got the blue bar, and you can see that the night cycle is still coming up with the length of the day. Now, one thing you might need to be aware of is that the day-night cycles don't exactly sync with the day. In fact, if I push this forward, you can see the day's just rolled over. You can see here the day-night cycle is still kind of moving through in its own pace. So don't expect to have a day and a night tied to the actual days, because if that was true, okay, it's starting to rain. Because if that was true, the game would be flipping backwards towards day and night at an almost annoying pace. You can see that we're just moving up now towards the dark period, and fast, and you can see, and you get this lovely effect. I mean, the visuals are fantastic. And what you see is that the map will get darker and darker, and of course what we want to do is focus on our town here. So we're just going to let the cycle come up. It's getting darker. And what you will see is at one point, once it gets to a certain darkness, you can see the lights coming on. To be honest, once you've got your initial planning out the way, where I switch the day-night cycle off, it doesn't get so dark that you can't see anything. I know some purists will say, well, it should get darker so you get a better visual effect. It will get a little bit darker, but to be honest, I think the devs have got the right balance between getting the visual effect of your town being illuminated, and also with the fact that you can see what you're actually doing if you want to get in design stuff. Plus it looks pretty cool actually, especially when you've got the little street lights here. I mean, you can really zoom in and look at that this way. And there's also something else in here which I think it was added for the Christmas thing, Christmas lights, and you can put these in if you really want to make your city look attractive. But of course we're now coming out the day-night cycle. The Christmas lights are completely free. I'll just leave them on there for the fun of it. that is the day-night cycle. We've got to wait for the winter to come through. I'm just going to leave the game on high speed because what with winter, what happens is, and you can already see the effect here, the green has now turned to brown. That happens in around September. So that's a kind of advance warning that winter's on the way. What will happen is, I think it's late November, early December, the snow will fall, and then the snow will persist right through to, I think it's about the end of February. And what will happen is the map will just go white. Now that has a number of consequences, which I'll talk about once the snow arrives, because at the moment we're okay. It's also worth noting that Free Division have announced a DLC that has biomes. Those biomes are the Arctic, the desert, and the jungle. It's worth noting that if you for some reason you want to buy that DLC, I'm not promoting it. I've got no links with Free Division. This is just an observation based on what I've noticed. The desert and jungle maps don't have winter, and the Arctic one has a longer winter than the in-game winter. Anyway, that completely out of the way. And while we're waiting for winter to come, we're now going to skip forward, and I'm going to talk about research. Now, probably the best way to explain research is if I come to our little friend down here. I've already talked a little bit about research, but what I want to do now is talk about what types of research and when you may want to do it. Now, obviously, research is split into the medical university, the technical university, and party headquarters. Now, all the medical research is at the top here, which is in white. It's also worth noting that because we're not playing with everything switched on, there is research missing from this because the game basically sets up your research according to whatever game settings you've got up here. One thing I will say is that in these settings, there's something I forgot to mention when I was doing the settings, is you can turn on water management, waste management, maintenance, and crime and justice. Now, what I would say is, if you decide to switch on one of these, think about the consequences, and I'll just go through what the consequences are. Now, while you're still on your first town, water management can be switched on, but make sure you've got a pile of money, because you will have to auto build all the water infrastructure immediately. So what you'd have to do is pause the game, plan the water infrastructure, and then put it in. And it's not for the faint-hearted. Waste management, never switch on waste management in the middle of a game. It will literally just blow your economy apart, and I know that from personal experience, simply because when waste management was released, I actually did an exercise in putting waste management into an existing economy which had multiple cities, and it was an absolute nightmare. And in fact, I think I came pretty close to destroying the whole economy. Maintenance is an interesting one, because if you switch maintenance on, you will have about a 4 to 5 year grace period to build up your infrastructure. And to be honest, there isn't that much infrastructure to actually put in. In fact, maybe if I get adventurous and we've covered most of the things, I will show how you can switch maintenance on and what the possible consequences are. The other one is crime and justice. Now, you can switch crime and justice on, because truthfully, crime and justice doesn't really kick in an economy till you've got a population of about 5,000 or 6,000. So in some ways, maybe switching on crime again, maybe I will switch on crime and justice once we get the economy up to a certain size, just to show how it can be done and how the mechanic works. And so maybe that might be another option that we can look at going forward. Anyway, I've already done the crime, which I already apologise for. I get completely digressed. Back to research now. All the medical researchers at the top. Now, to be honest, this is not really necessary when you're playing on medium difficulty. What this does is it mitigates certain effects, and which actually then has an effect on happiness. The downside of medical research is that we will need a medical university. Now, the problem with that is that if we come to state infrastructure, what you'll find is that the medical university is huge. It is very expensive to build. There are plenty of mods where you can actually build a smaller medical university. To be honest, is I've never built this building. I'll be completely honest. It's just a very big building to commit to, and this is one of the reasons why, if you watch old tutorials, you see players putting down really big buildings. It's the same with the technical university, because up until the fairly recently, these used to be the buildings that were only available without mods. So from a research perspective, especially when starting out, ignore the white ones. Now what I will show you is that the technical research and the party research is intertwined. So the path you go down will depend very much on what is on the map at the moment. Now, what I would say is normally this section here at the top, the one across the top here, relates to production, and in here you've got advanced. This is your production line for making vehicles. This would be pretty low priority, to be honest. Then what we got here is steel. That still will be fairly high priority if you've got early access to coal and iron. Now we've got over here, if I come up to here, just want to shoot up to here. Now if you watch the early videos, we had access to oil here. What that does is it kind of opens up the options for two types of research. The one that's just reminded me about this is this research here. Now there's a lot of tech that you'd have to research to get to it, and this is a pipeline connection. What this would do is allow us to build a pipeline connection here, so that we could drill for the oil here and export it straight across the border using a pipeline. Now what this research here is also an example of some of the research in here. You have to do the research, and that gives you access to one pipeline connector. That's also the same with the grid power connectors. And what you can do is, say you want 3 pipeline connectors, what you will have to do is research this 3 times. That also applies to one of something back in medical research called increasing birth rate, decreasing birth rate. These are one-shot researches. What happens is, if you research increasing birth rate, it gives you a boost for birth rate for about 6 months. These may sound attractive, but don't go too overboard with these, because they can get you into a little bit of trouble. There's also one related to tourism down here, which is, it says advertising Western countries, advertising Soviet countries. So what you do is that you actually keep pushing these out to attract tourists. So anyway, I've kind of gone all around the houses, but the key factor is what we need to do is that what we need is our technical university, because the two technologies are actually intertwined. So if we come over here, what I want to do is put a technical university in. And of course, this has actually got a small version here. The game, you got the big one here, but the game does provide a small one here. There's also, just to give it a bit of a shout out, there's one called the Lenin Technical University. This is a mod. This is a nice little university. I think it was made by Robo76. It's quite a nice slot-in university which you can build, which can solve a lot of your problems, especially if you want a university in a small town. But you can also see here that we can slot the university in here. Now, when you're building the second university, you don't need to get complete coverage of your city. So what we're going to do is just try and slot this in and get it in as far as we can. We're just going to drop that university in there. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to auto build the footpath there, because I've got my road crews out working out here, so I don't want them to come back and mess about with this. So we've now going to build a technical university. And the other thing I've also done since the end of the video is I've built a groundworks crew here to work alongside my main thing. So what I'm going to do is, again, just to save a bit of money, I'm just going to turn the groundworks crew on here. I mean, this is a little bit of a bad scenario, really, in the fact that my construction crews are sat around doing nothing, but that's the nature of the way I've got to record. So that's the way it is. But what we will do now is build this technical university. Now I'm going to talk about the research that I want to follow, because while this is being built, we have got an opportunity to do some research in here. Now, what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to research railway distribution offices. Now, the reason for that is it's not an early research that I would often go for, because that's obviously related to railways. And, well, I wouldn't say we're nowhere near railways, but the reason for that is that because we've got this oil here, up here, in here, which I've already mentioned, what we've got is an opportunity now to get railway early into the game for two reasons. One of the things you often need to do when you get going is to import things, and railways are a very good way to import bulk materials such as crops, which we will need to drive a number of industries, but I'm not going to talk about it in this video. Others, that would be 20 minutes later and we wouldn't get anywhere near where we're actually going. So get it, and rail distribution offices is a good way to control the imports, the same way as road distribution offices can work very effectively with like distributing the fuel. So that's something that you do need to consider. The other thing also is that eventually we are going to research the oil refinery, which, if I come down back to the research here, this will be an early target for us, is the oil refinery, which is down here. And to get access to the oil refinery, what we actually need is to research fuel processing, bitumen, and the refinery itself. So there's what's 1300, that's 2600, 2600. So you can say there's about 4,500 work days of research to do to get this oil refinery up and running. Now, the reason I'm saying that I push for an oil refinery is the fact that that would give us fuel efficiency, and also would give us access to bitumen, which we will need for our construction industry. So what we'll be thinking is to put the oil industry out here. Now that gives another problem, because our town is down there. Now we could use buses, which is the reason why I'm building this highway. I'll come back to that. But there's also an opportunity that, because the distance is so far away, what we can do is use a train to move passengers from the town up to our oil refinery. There's also the fact that we will need workers in this area to protect our oil field from fire. But there is a way that you can use foreign workers to provide fire coverage if you need it. We may get to that. So anyway, long story short, what we will probably be doing is pushing for rail fairly early, and we're going to need to control a certain amount of what we are imports, and that's the reason why I'm doing the rail distribution office. And then we will shift to oil later on, and then we will shift a focus towards producing oil, fuel, and bitumen. Anyway, for some reason I put the game on pause. So that is the research. So I will come back to research, but it does very much depend on where your opportunities are on the map. And of course, if you're playing at the higher levels, it's worth mentioning this, that there are certain researches which you will need to improve your waste collection, which takes you into something called waste separation or recycling in modern parlance. But that's way beyond the scope of this video. So I think I've covered most of that. So what I'm going to do now is talk about the final subject in here, which is building complex road junctions. But before that, I just want to show you what I'm doing out here. Now, in fact, the truck has just shown up quite opportunely now. What you will see is that I'm building these highways, and I'm deliberately building very long highways, because one advantage of building long highways is you can see here that this truck is coming out here. He's going to come in here and he's going to park here, right? And there's another one here that's just parked. And that means that the trucks bringing in the gravel and asphalt only come to here, and also the open holes delivering the paver, the bulldozer and the roller only come to here. So this is a way of saving fuel, that when you've got major roads like this, what you can do, because what will happen is, you will see, if we follow this guy, what you'll see is that this paver is paving the road, and the truck will come here, wait, and sometimes you can get a queue of trucks. Now, A fringe benefit of this, which is isn't quite clear at the moment, but I might come back and show you, is that whenever the construction vehicle, see here, you can see these guys are queuing up now. So that guy's finished. We've got 2 trucks here, and they're queuing up here, where if you split the road, they'd have to come out here and queue up here. Now, back to what I was about to say, is a fringe benefit of when you've got construction vehicles out on a job. If they run out of fuel, they don't go looking for fuel. They will keep going even though they've got no fuel. And this is a way that you can get quite long roads built and save a little bit of fuel at the same time. As I say, by the 3 ways. One, that these vehicles, when they run out of fuel, they won't go looking for fuel. So, and they will carry on operating for a long until the job is actually done with no fuel whatsoever. 2, you've shortened the distance from your pickup point to the start point, which makes the construction process a lot more efficient, and it also saves fuel. So that's another key factor. And it does come down to speed, because these trucks will flip forward. I mean, if we watch these guys, yeah, we're on maximum speed. See there, he's gone there, and the truck now, next truck is now jumped up to here. So again, maybe if I can catch it here, can be a bit quick. So we got 9 tons on this truck, and we got another truck waiting here. And what you'll see is this guy, you can see the asphalt going down. When this truck empties, we got another truck waiting. In fact, we've got 2 trucks waiting. So as this actually empties out, and what you'll see is then this guy will stop. And then the next truck, then you see here that the truck that was waiting here effectively teleports to here. What he's doing is saving a bit of time with the construction, where if you split this all up, like for say an example I've got here, in the fact that I've got, if I show you the nodes here, you've got a node here. So if I was on auto purchase, the truck would build this area here and then go out this way. But if you take these nodes out, like that, what we're effectively doing is creating one big mega road, which can, and the actual connection drop-off point is here, which means that where if this would still be split up here, the trucks would have to come all out the extra distance. And that also makes a difference when we get into winter. There won't be any snow plowing going on. The only thing I will say about long roads like this is that when the roller comes out here, they will be out here for a very long time rolling the road. Now, if you do want to save money, what you can do is just build one leg of a highway and keep it 2-way for the long term. What I'm doing at the moment is just taking advantage of the fact that I'm not building very much at the moment, so I can get my crews on there. Plus, I do want this road pushed out towards that other customs shed. Another thing I want to show you is a form of connection which I put in here. This is a way that you can connect a 2-way road to a roundabout using one-way roads. Then these one-way roads are actually up here, and we'll be using these in the next bit. So I'll be going into those more detail. But this kind of gives a slightly more tidier connection to a single road when you actually because of course these will be one-way roads actually connected. In fact, what I could do is just to show you that what we can do is start actually making, and to make roads one way is quite simple. You just put them in here like that, and in this way I've got a 2-way road approach, so we can do something like that. And what we got here, and of course eventually what we could do is make this into a one-way road. Generally I don't make this one way until it starts to get really busy. So what we've got here now is a one-way thing. We could make this one way, but generally what I do is I don't put the one-ways indicators in until such time. I mean, we could make this one way just for the fun of it. So and the one way is always defined by the direction that you actually pull this in. So we've now got this as a one-way road like that, but so we've got this going, and you'll find that roundabouts with one-way systems in. The other thing you can do, sorry again, apologies for the digressions, but this is the nature of the game. What you can do to make it even more efficient is actually set the priority on the roundabouts like this. Now, the advantage of doing this is that if you set the priorities on your road like this, and what I'll do is I'll explain it once I've actually done this. So all you do literally is go round, and of course if you're European, you're familiar with the diamond priority system. It's something we don't use in the UK. Our signage system is, but of course the Free Division live in Slovakia, so they're using the European priority system. Now, what I'm going to try and illustrate here is whenever a vehicle comes up to a node, it will slow down to decide on where it has priority. So, I mean, we don't really have enough traffic to make it a big issue at the moment, and the speed that it slows down can be quite small. So, if I show you this truck here, I don't know if you guys saw it, but this truck is, even though there's not any other vehicles here, this truck slows down and then builds back up again. It's more prominent when you've got vehicles that are faster. So again, what you can do to try and make this road a little bit more efficient is you can put, whoops, if you click a second time, you can keep rotating them round, and then we'll put another one here. So the game can be a bit arbitrary. The other thing you can do is you can actually come into here, and you can actually edit the junction individually. Now, the way the edit actually works is, say you want the priority coming from the left, what you do is you click there and just click on it, and it will make the priority from the left. But obviously we want this. You can put a stop sign in and you can come there, and so you can actually edit the individual junctions. You can also put traffic lights on here, but to be honest, traffic lights, I'm not the world's greatest fan of traffic lights. That's not just in this game, it's in the real world. Now, another thing you can do is, if you've got a junction like this where you've got a connector out to here, you can set a priority. That means that what you can do is enhance it again by, and this is very much, and you can see there's a number here, so we can kind of change that to a stop sign. And oops, I'm always forgetting to do that, accept changes. And what we got here now is we're basically saying that this connection is a stop sign. What that does is it actually enhances the priority and the give way sign here, because obviously the only vehicles that are going to go in here are fire trucks when they're leaving. So if you've got a building like that, we could also do the same down on this junction as well. So this is junction 3. Now, this is a high level of micromanagement. Now, I would not suggest doing this on every one of your roads, but key roads, it's worth investing the time, because what you're doing by putting these signs in with when you've got advanced transport. So if you come in here, because we don't have anything set here, that one's not too bad, because this is a one-way road coming in here. This has been a two-way road. Both trucks would have slowed down and paused to decide on who had priority. And this is where, and of course, what can happen is that your trucks lose speed, and then they have to build the speed back up again. So it's certainly worth putting the road signs in, especially on main roads like this. See, I don't know if you guys saw that. If I got another truck coming down here, if we track this truck, you can see at the moment he's doing 70 kilometers an hour. I slow the game up. Even though this truck's coming up to a junction with no one, what you see there, he's now dropped to 50 kilometers an hour, because there's a road coming from the left-hand side, and he has to make a decision on where he's crossing. So you can see now he's down to 52 kilometers an hour. So basically he's lost 18 kilometers an hour. And then once he gets over, what you'll see is the speed will start picking up again. And this is the reason why on your main roads, you've got to keep the nodes as to the absolute minimum. Either that or use priority signs, because what will happen is that we've got, if you watch this truck, and of course we've got a priority signs here. Now, if you watch this truck, because he's going to want to go up over there. If we follow this truck slowly, you can see he's doing 69 kilometers an hour because he's got priority. He doesn't slow down. And I say this is pretty important when you actually, and the same also applies for these types of junction as well. Now you can see he did slow down a bit simply because the difference now with this junction is that the priority is on the roundabout, not there. So he slowed down because he had to check for whether there's traffic coming. Yeah, so apologies for kind of repeating myself over and over again. And the reason I did that is because getting that understanding of how the prioritization system works and how your vehicles move around the map is very, very important to being able to get efficient traffic movement. Again, I'm not digging at other YouTubers. I've seen YouTubers obsessing with curved junctions and all that, and then you see them never using the actual road priority system. So we are now in winter. You can see it's, well, you can say, be generous, the 23rd of November, snow is falling. So the first thing that will happen now is you can see our snow plows will go out. We'll just let the game run a little bit faster, and you can see that they kind of come out and start ploughing away. So what you end up with is tandem ploughing. Now, to be honest, the game isn't the smartest, but you see where it went round like that. That's not a very good sign. Let me just fix that. Well, that needs to be like that, and that needs to be like that, because you don't want snow plows doing little bits of gymnastics like that. And you can see they will go around here. Now, if you look here, what you will see is that what you will get here is the snow plows will work like that, but they will slow down when they actually plow. So if we follow this guy, while he's out and about, while he's moving between ploughing jobs, he will do his maximum road speed, which is 62. But you can see the moment he hits a section of road that needs to be ploughed, he will drop to his ploughing speed, which is about 26 kilometers an hour. Now, of course, at the beginning of the game, you don't get much choice, but one thing you do need to remember is that as the game progresses, what you do need to do is upgrade your snow plows to the best ones, especially ones which are working on primary roads like this, because what you'll see is, again, just to illustrate the point, this truck is currently driving on a snow-covered road. He has a top speed at the moment of 38 kilometers an hour. And of course, he's not going to go on the unpaved road. Just use this guy. This guy's got a speed of 45 kilometers an hour. And you'll see that once he gets on the ploughed sections, his speed will increase to his maximum speed. But sometimes they will not actually get to their top speed. And you also got to remember is that if they're moving between ploughed and unploughed, there's this continuous slowing down and picking up again as well, which needs to take place. Having to clear the roads is a key consequence of your economy. Now, the next thing is that when your temperature drops really low, and we're down to -3, -4, what you'll find is that your heating plant will now come under even more intense pressure. And the way that the heating actually works is, if I can find the heating terminal, is the amount of heat that gets spread is related to temperature. So even though an accommodation block will be attached to a heating plant, if they're on the periphery, they will get less heat than others. But with a town this size, it would probably be difficult to see any difference in there. And of course, you can check here. But we've got fairly even spread of temperature at the moment. We don't have much heating in here because this is still being built. And then what you get is the hot water tank. And what you can see now is that's 72, that's 70. And of course, if you click on the individual buildings, you can see that the tank is not 100% full. Now, the reason this shows a tank is that, say you get a disrupted heating thing because of workers. At the moment, see, we're only getting 16 workers out here. The tank will absorb the differences. So because your heating plant goes off, it won't cause an immediate effect on your heating, unlike power. But the downside is that if you do get an interruption of your heating, especially in winter, it will take some time for this tank to fill up. Now, as long as your tank is kind of in this area pushing up towards 90, that means your heating's working well and things are going good. The other thing we can check is, what we got here is our total capacity of all connected buildings is only 63%. So at the moment, this heating exchanger can cover all the buildings in this area. So heating's good. The other reason for winter is where you're looking for shortages due to either your trucks being delayed by snow or by your delivery systems. So what you need to do is just keep an eye on your food, especially food, but other deliveries, because you've got to remember that your trucks now, these trucks here coming from the distribution office, I don't think there's any actually moving at the moment, is there? I think what I will do is just going to increase that a little bit. Actually, we'll push that to 60% now. If this starts to get low, then you will get food shortages. And of course, the other thing you can do during winter is just take a quick look and see if there's any problems. Now, these guys have finished the ground crew, so all we're going to do is get this in. I'm kind of talking, so we'll get these on here. They can come out and build the technical university. So just to wind up this section is winter is the time that you stress test your towns. And it's always worth, especially once your economy starts to grow and you've got multiple towns, it's certainly worth spending a little bit of time during the winter running around your towns, just making sure everything is working, because it will be winter that will expose any weaknesses in your economy and delivery systems. So that is the main gist of the video. What I want to do now is just kind of put in a little bit of a bonus about building a complex road junction. Doing this in the winter, it can be a bit tricky, but I just want to show you something, an option. Now, if you're going to be planning on doing lots of motorways and you want to build a complex junction, I want to show you a way that you can actually do things. And that is, if I switch on an F thing here, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to build up. Let's make sure F4's on. And I'm just going to build go through there, accept this. What I'm going to be doing here is I'm going to build a complex road junction out in the middle of nowhere, because one of the problems with building complex junctions, if you can't use the grid, it can get a little bit tricky. And one way you can do is to build one out here and then clone the junctions in. And what it means is that you can spend a lot of time actually working on the junction, trying to get it right, and then actually cloning it in. So what we're going to do now is I'm just going to build a concrete road. Now I want to come back about 4 here. Now when you do this, you're going to spend quite a lot of time turning on and off the snapping tool. Now I'm coming in from 4 squares out, and what I'm trying to do is if I press that, we can get some snapping effect as well. And what I want to do now is turn that off again. And it can be very, very tricky. And because we're crossing the highway, I'm building this in short sections. And then press Q, you can drop it down. We've still got a little bit of height, 6 meters. Doing the bridges can be a little bit tricky. So we've now built this first bridge. Now we press F4, so the F4 snapping or proximity snapping is on. You can actually get the game to help you, because it will snap to the bridge that you've got alongside it. So what we've now got is there. It's a little bit wonky. Now, if I was doing this in for real, I might spend a little bit of time tidying that up, but I don't really want to bore you guys here. And of course, another top tip, guys, doing this outside of snow can actually be useful as well. So we've now got this here. I'm just going to accept that. I mean, a little bit wonky in the center. So what we've now built is a crossover. Now the fun starts, because what we're going to be doing is using the single roads. Now I'm building this for right hand traffic. So what we're going to do is build an inner clover leaf. And what you want to do is put a parallel road. Actually, we may have to come out a bit further on this. Now, what you do is you put in the one-way road of the direction you want your traffic to go first, because if I can now get a link, we could probably bring that road in a little bit closer. Actually, I could probably do this off as a curve. What I will say is that you will need a lot of patience to do this. And then what we'll do is we'll come out here and we can get that connection there. So what that means is the right hand traffic that wants to go on that road will go that way. And then what we're going to do now is, now what I want is the equivalent on this side for the traffic coming from here to go down to there. And what I'm going to do is come here and we'll come down to about there. Now, when you're making these connections, you do really need to have the F4 on, because what will happen is if you turn the F4 off, it will snap to the center of the road, not the edge of the road. So what we're going to do now is we've got the right hand road and we want to go up and over the bridge for the traffic to go that way. So what we're going to do is exactly the kind of converse of this. Actually, no, because we want, let me just think about this. Sorry. Actually, we need this one to come off like that. This is the traffic that's coming up here that want to go that way. And then apologies that it's got dark. And we'll come here. And this is where it can, things can get a bit messy. Yeah, I'm just going to put that squiggle in. Normally I would redo this and try and get it a bit straighter, but I don't want to waste your time too much. And then what we'll do is come out here, kind of get a little bit of width here. It's kind of that bridge. It's, as I say, it can be a test of patience. Maybe if I can. Now this one's got a little bit strange. It's actually going the wrong way. No, it's not. It's going the right way. No, it's going the wrong way. But you can reverse the one-way roads later on. But what I am going to do is I'm going to cancel that and see if we can get that a little bit better. What we'll do, actually, no, that was the right way, wasn't it? Because no, this wants to, this comes this way to go that way, and this one needs to come up this way. So we do actually, right, I'm gonna put this here. Yeah, we'll go with that. Sorry about that. Sometimes you've just got to try and go it out this way. That's it. Apologies that it's pretty manky, but we could now kind of just try and tidy this up a little bit like that. That makes it look a little bit better. So we've now got the inner junctions. What we want to do now is we've got this as the right hand side here. So what we can do now is come off here. You can come in really tight in alongside like this. And we turn off the F4. We can, that trying to pull into there was the effect of the F4, but of course we've got to put the F4 back on again now so that it will snap to the outside. So a key part of this is kind of being known how to flip between the two options again. Turn F4 off again because I don't really want that. Right, we've finished some research. Turn F4 back on again. We can run that way. Go there. And then we can come off here. Oops. No. Do it again. Come here. You can connect to there. And we want to come off here. Just flip you there. Turn off F4 again so it doesn't. I'm just going to do this very quickly. It's not. I'll put F4 back on again because I want it to act as a slip road. And then we're just going to accept that. And what I want to do now is just trim some of these roads back a little bit. So what we've now got is a template road that's being built here like that. So we've now got this road here. What you want to do is drop a save. Simply because if this goes wrong, you can mess up your game. So we always, before cloning, always drop a save. I think we can clone this as a, what we got now is a clone of this junction, and where I want to put this junction is up here. Now when you're putting down complex junctions like this, what you want to do is consider where your primary traffic is going to be, because obviously if you go over a bridge your trucks slow down. Going over bridges slows trucks down. And what I want to do is just drop this down here. Obviously we're going to have to connect in the road here like that. Select that. What we're going to do is, because we want this road to be really big, we're going to pick out the nodes. Now one tip I will say about if you use this technique is take a good look at the bridges, because sometimes you get problems with the bridge. In fact, I think we may have had a problem, but what you can do is, yeah, the game can get a little bit confused, but what you should be able to do is put F4 on. What you get, there's a bit of road in there, so we need to do that. But what, as I say, if you, as long as you've got F4 on, you can rebuild the bridge back in again, and it's still a lot quicker than, yeah, there is this little bit of a glitch, so you do need to double check your bridges. Otherwise what will happen is that when you build it, or whether it's auto build or only build, your bridge won't actually work. And that is an example of how you got complex junctions. And of course what it means is, just get rid of that there, and what you've got over here is a permanent template. And what that means is that if you can invest the time to get a really good quality junction built, you can just keep reproducing it over and over and over again, and you can get some pretty cool looking junctions. One thing that did flash up while I was actually making that, I don't know if you guys actually noticed it, was the fact that we've actually got the road crews not got nothing to do. So what we're going to do is put you on building these. You can keep out of mischief. We can auto build any minor roads that we need. And also while we're actually doing that, this flashed up and said that this has actually got research. Now, just to finish off, what I'm going to do is we've got research going on in here, and the first research I want to do is we're going to go straight for fuel processing. So what we got now is 2 functional universities. If you don't have enough workforce for the university, because what that can do is take away your workforce from here, is what you can do is reduce the number of professors in your university here, because of course the universities, it doesn't really make that much difference if you're not educating everybody. And then not that one, sorry, this one, what we can do is do the research for biofuel, because as a hint towards the next part, We're going to put quite a lot of focus on the oil industry and getting that set up so that we can start making some money. But this is where I'm going to leave it. Hope you enjoyed the episode. Hope you found it interesting. And until next time, whatever you do, enjoy your gaming.